We are getting news this morning that the Biden administration is going to allow the Gang of Eight to go through those classified documents that were found at the homes of President Trump, President Biden, and Vice President Pence. What can we expect?
Well, I think we all have a lot of questions. I know the Gang of Eight has a lot of questions. The two big questions that stand out in my mind: why was Donald Trump treated so differently than Joe Biden? Secondly, from an oversight standpoint, we're very concerned about one document in particular that the president's son emailed to some of his associates on the whole Burisma deal in Ukraine. We know that there was a classified document at the Biden residence that pertained to Ukraine. We know that there's a document on the president's son's email that's very suspicious. So we have a lot of questions about that. I have confidence in the Gang of Eight, but it's very disappointing that it's taken this long for the government to allow the Gang of Eight to have access to this. You know, there's a lot of distrust among the average member of Congress and the Biden administration, the federal government right now, with how they've handled this situation. And are they being completely honest with not only Congress, but the American people? So hopefully we'll be able to find more information out today.
Congressman, we don't know. They went into Joe Biden's lawyer's office. We don't know what they took. We don't know the contents of the University of Delaware. We don't know specifically what was in Rehoboth or Penn. We know a couple of dozen documents, but we don't get any leaks from that investigation. Man, do we get a lot if you get the Washington Post delivered by your paper boy or girl or whatever. You get a lot of information. How do you explain that?
You can explain it, and it's a very serious problem. You know, there are supposed to be three branches of government. What's happened in the last 10 years, there's a fourth branch, and that's the government bureaucracy. And there's no oversight of this bureaucracy. It gets worse every day. We learned from Kathy Chung in a transcribed interview on the House Oversight Committee that she actually transported those documents that later we learned were classified to various locations, including Chinatown, for Joe Biden. And yet they weren't stored anywhere safe. They weren't behind a lock. She transported them in their car. We have no idea who had access to these documents, but yet Donald Trump's the one that's in all sorts of trouble over mishandling of classified documents that he kept behind a lock in his basement in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, well, this story is breaking this morning. It's from Punchbowl News, and what it says essentially is that this is a win for congressional oversight, because the senators, Mark Warner and Marco Rubio, both had been pressing, show the Gang of Eight what is in it, because there is such interest. You know, the average rank and file member of Congress not going to see it, but the Gang of Eight will, and then they'll tell you what they can tell you.
Yeah, I guess it's a win if you trust the federal government, if you trust that this administration is going to be honest with the Gang of Eight.
Do you trust the Gang of Eight?
Well, who's briefing them? Who's briefing them?
I trust the Gang of Eight. Good. I don't trust the Biden administration.
Right. Who's ever briefing them will decide what the Gang of Eight will learn.
Right. That's exactly right. That's the problem right there.
They won't be able to see all of the classified documents, have access to everything?
It's going to be their decision.
We don't know.
Well, we're going to find out.
Yep. So, all right. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. On Monday morning here in Manhattan, over at the Javits Center, they're going to have a field hearing where the House Judiciary Committee is going to be interviewing some of the victims of Alvin Bragg's policies here in New York. Of course, he is the Manhattan DA who's been accused of being soft on crime. He's also the guy who indicted Donald Trump just about a week ago as well. What do you know about this, and what do you think we're going to learn?
Well, I think it's very good that the Judiciary Committee is going to have that field hearing in New York City. Crime is a huge issue in America. This is an issue that's been a priority for the Republican majority in the House. We've looked at crime. We believe that we have high crime rates for various reasons, two of which are we don't have a secure border, therefore more drugs are pouring across the border, which are leading to more crimes, and we have a lot of soft on crime prosecutors. And I think that's one of the areas they're going to look at with Alvin Bragg. You know, our resources are limited. The court dockets are limited. But we have district attorneys and prosecutors who are focusing on things to enhance their political career, as opposed to trying to put real criminals behind the bars for shoplifting, for murder, for rape, for carjacking. These are problems in New York City, just like every other big city in America. And I think that's what the Judiciary Committee is going to focus on in New York City and see where Alvin Bragg stacks up in all that.
Yeah, Alvin Bragg says, don't be fooled. The House GOP is coming to the safest city in America for a political stunt. This hearing won't engage in actual efforts to increase public safety, such as supporting national gun legislation and shutting down the iron pipeline.
Yeah, I don't think many people are going to come to his defense and say New York City is the safest city in America right now.
Nobody.
No, he's comparing numbers in New York City compared to numbers in Ohio, which is where Jim Jordan is from. What's the latest on the Hunter Biden investigation? I know you're, House Oversight. Y'all are investigating that.
A lot. We are almost through all of the suspicious activity reports. Remember, these are the bank violations that Janet Yellen said she would never allow the Republicans on the Oversight Committee to have access to, even though she's supposed to. She said in her last letter before she let us in, you're going to have to provide evidence as to why we should allow you in. We provided evidence that a lot of people haven't seen. The next day we're allowed in, and it's been very valuable to our investigation. We're probably going to have a press conference within the next 2 weeks to update the American people about what all we found, but it's very concerning. And I think Joe Biden's going to have a lot of explaining to do with respect to how many countries his family was influence peddling in and how many members of his family were involved in this influence peddling
Was he
scheme.
getting paid by his son?
Well, we're still looking into that. There are so many different LLCs that were funneling and laundering money from these countries, and there are a lot of expenses that are credit card bills and things like that. We have some tips on what some of those credit card expenses were. We're going to keep digging, and I think that in the end, the American people will know the truth about the Biden family.
Congressman, exit question for you. Have you found evidence that anybody broke any laws?
Well, if the president was involved in this, obviously he would have broken many laws, because we don't believe that China would have paid the Biden family millions and millions of dollars for nothing. We believe that China was more than likely getting something in return. The same could be said for Ukraine with Burisma. The same could be said for some of these shady characters they were dealing with in Russia. So what we're trying to determine is if, in fact, Joe Biden made policy decisions and did things that were not in the best interest of the American people in order to enrich his family, then those are laws that are certainly broken. We're going to fix the laws on influence peddling because this is getting out of control.
Absolutely.
And if we don't have tighter ethics laws, you're going to have countries like China that are going to come in and buy off relatives of high-ranking government officials, and people are going to say, like the Democrats are saying now, well, they didn't break any laws. Well, we're going to change the laws. But with respect to Joe Biden, we're focused on him because we're very concerned that his family was getting this money because of things he was doing both as vice president and president.
Is it true you flipped one of Hunter Biden's business partners is cooperating?
We have several of Hunter Biden's business partners who we're in communication with right now, and I think the American people are going to learn a lot more about this in the coming weeks.
Okay. Congressman, thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.